Hi folks, Chris Walsh here. I'm just going to familiarize you with a few of the procedures I use my pin router for in building guitars. Um, the pin router it's probably one of the most valuable tools I have in my shop. It's in use all the time, and it just saves you a ton of time. And so we're going to go through a few things right here real quick, and if you can, get one. The first is routing the F holes, okay? If this was, I don't do it when the body's like this, when it's just the top plate, okay, I've made a jig template for that. So what happens is I'll use a 1/4-inch pin and a 1/4-inch downcut, spiral downcut bit. And so the pin will ride on here, right? And what's nice about this is that, I mean, there are options, okay? I mean, you can use a smaller pin, a larger cutter, smaller cutter, larger pin. So you can, if you wanted to put binding in here and make it a little larger, you make the hole larger, and smaller. If you just make like a smaller style guitar, smaller F holes or whatever, you could use a larger pin and a smaller cutter. So the options are there, right? And with any of the uses of the pin router, you can do that. And okay, so the top plate gets clamped right here, and it follows the back side, and we'll route this out. Great time saver. The next is my pearl inlay on the ebony headstock cover. There's the finished product there. It's not CNC, but it's close. And again, if you really want to tighten up the gaps in here, you can use either a smaller pin, right? And the same size cutter. I think I have like a 1/16. What I have on this, I clamp it down or screw it down to the table. And it's got a 1/16 diameter pin. I use a 3/64 spiral cutter. And now you can make the logo bigger or smaller, again, using different pins or cutters, right? So again, this is one of those, okay, inside out, backwards kind of thing. That's a pin router. You got to think outside the box a little bit. It's not CNC, that's why you have software and hardware, right? So you can make things a little bigger or a little smaller using various pins or cutters, okay? So here's the finished product. And so that rides on the pin, and this is double stick tape to this piece of maple, and just rides and the cutter is up here, and this is just riding. Okay, it's great time. So otherwise, you're using what you have to paint the ebony, and then you got to glue the pearl down, and then you got to etch it out, and then you got to take the pearl off, and then you're using a Dremel router base or whatever. This just enough of that already, okay? This just saves you a ton of time. If you can get one of these, you get your hands on one of these pin routers, do it. Okay, the third, another huge time-saving tool. I use a 3/4-inch roundover bit, 1/2-inch flute. I don't have a bearing. I don't use the bearing. I'll show you in a second. Basically rounds over your neck. Okay, for most of it. I mean, you still have some work to do with the heel and the headstock, but yes, nothing. Okay, so on the underside is the neck profile. Okay, I use a 1/2-inch pin, right? And so this slides on the pin. And I wrap some tape around the pin, make something just a little oversized. A little oversized is fine. I mean, you're doing stuff by hand here. So if you don't want to do things by hand, maybe find something else to do, like golf or something, And then, okay, so I lock it down here. It's here I have in the truss rod slot, I have a few wooden 1/4 inch dowels. So, and I lock it down here in the headstock, here in the heel. And what I found is if you use cutting into the grain on this, you can have quite a bit of tear out. It'll want to rip. So what I do, and it kind of breaks the rules, but it works, is you're basically using this in the direction of the cutter. So you're working right to left. This is going clockwise. You're working right to left, which it breaks the rules but this is heavy enough. This is heavy enough. It's not going to go flying. And you're just taking, and especially this, you're just taking on most everything, you're doing everything in a few passes. You're not doing everything in one shot. So, just taking like a 1/16, not even 1/8 of an inch off of this at a time. I mean, very small cuts. And so if it takes you a half dozen passes, 6 or 8 passes, so what? I mean, you have very close. I mean, you do a little shaping by hand, but in comparison to, rectangular shaped neck, this is the time you save on this, and it's consistent. You can throw a little shim under here, so you have that 3/32 taper from like the 10th, 12th fret to the knot or whatever. So you throw a shim under here, and it cuts more here than it does here. I mean, it's a lot less work, and you don't have to think about it. It's just done for you. And then afterwards, I mean, sometimes you can get it so close that if you use more than 80 grit to round everything over, and then along the edges, God, that just saves you tons of time doing this. Anyway, make some dust.